Producers, engineers, recording folks of all kinds, we need to have a little bit of a heart-to-heart. If you've been online recently, then you've definitely noticed there's been an uptick in content creators, digital marketers, and frankly, I think we've got a bit of a guru problem going on. Now, I know I'm one to talk, Mr. sitting behind the camera on YouTube, but frankly, it does go a little deeper than that. And I've been in this space for a long time. I've seen the ebbs and flow of these sort of things, and I think it's due time that I say something and address it. Part of what inspired me to do this video was reading Rick Rubin's book, which I'm gonna get into later, including some of the weirdest and worst advice for producers and people that I've ever seen, including some stuff that's honestly a bit dangerous. But I'm also gonna tell you some things that I did like about it, some things I did learn from it, but also some books that I think you should read instead. But before I make a lot of self-help fans really mad with my takes on that book, I want to talk about the first guru problem that we're dealing with, which I'm going to call the guru pyramid. The word guru has its origins in ancient Sanskrit language. Now, in Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, it basically means spiritual guide, but in the West, it's kind of picked up this negative connotation similar to snake oil salesman. So in this video, when I use the word guru, I'm talking about that self-proclaimed Western expert on a subject. And these are mostly people with some sort of influence online who are going to be trying to sell you as a client, or they're trying to sell you some sort of course. And to be perfectly clear here, I have no problem with someone selling a course on something that they're proficient in. I have no problem with selling digital products, but that pyramid that I described earlier is what I do have a problem with. I think it's great that there are people who want to teach other people and make courses and create amazing content to help other people learn when they're just starting out. However, there is a flip side to this. And it really begins with someone who is just starting out learning to be a music producer. They like what they're doing, it's a fun hobby, maybe they're making a little bit of money. Now enter the guru. This is someone who's got their secret method, their framework, their way that they're building six-figure businesses for people all over the country who follow their methods. So you buy the course, you take it, you stick to it, and eventually you're gonna have that six-figure business just like all these other people. So exciting, right? Problems solved, mission accomplished. We did it. However, and yes, there's always a however, when something sounds too good to be true, it usually is. Because once you take that course, you are on step one of the pyramid. You are the student and you are learning from the guru. So now once you're on the pyramid, they let you in on the real secret, which is that you're not just gonna make your six figures from producing, but you're gonna start selling some sort of digital product, some sort of course, some sort of sample pack, whatever it is, so that you can make six figures without having to produce all those pesky artists. Now, did they mention that that was one of the steps when they were selling you on this idea? Maybe, maybe not, but we're gonna go with probably not. But now that you know that that's the next step in the pyramid, your goal isn't just to produce good work, but it's to also become an influential figure yourself, so that when you launch that product, people are interested in it. The next level up is becoming the guru's guru. So now that you've made your six-figure business becoming a producer that also does this other stuff on the side, you're gonna be able to teach other producers under you how to do the same thing. So by the time this pyramid has formed, you've got the guy at the bottom who's a producer. He's taking lessons from someone else who's a producer about how to make their production business a six-figure business, but that person is usually taking courses or lessons from someone above them on the pyramid that's teaching them the same thing. And then at the very top, you usually have someone who's teaching you how to make courses about how to make courses. It's all very confusing, but if you spend enough time in the internet business world, you're gonna come across these people who teach you how to make six figures from home with your laptop. And it all just trickles down to this bottom guy who paid $100 for a class on how to become a producer when the guy selling it to him isn't really that interested in producing anymore. You can usually spot these people in Facebook groups or in your Facebook friend request, and if you see their page, they've usually got really long posts giving kind of vague general music advice, and then they're gonna end it with stuff like, if you're interested in learning more about this, send me a DM. You also might have seen stuff like this in your YouTube pre-roll ads where there's someone telling you that they're making 10 grand a month editing trumpet solos or whatever it is. And the kicker with these people is that they're usually hoping to be the first person you come across when you're learning this new hobby of music production. That way, they're not competing with all the other free resources or affordable courses that are just focusing on teaching you the basics. They can get you hooked on their framework and following this path to becoming this enlightened, wealthy music production guru yourself. Now, you may be wondering, what's the problem with this whole pyramid? Because at the end of the day, we're all trying to make it in the world. Capitalism is a thing, we gotta make money to live, cash is king, all that. And yes, we do live in a society, but if you are setting out to grow as a producer just so you can build enough influence to pivot into making these guru courses, I have a hard time believing that you're doing right by the people that you're eventually going to be teaching, and I also have a hard time believing that you're doing right by your clients at the time. If you're doing everything you can to get a couple of your clients' songs in the background of an MTV show or 1 million streams on Spotify once so that you can use that as a win to now go out and sell this class, I just don't really love that. I know that I want someone that I'm working with on music to be in it for the music and for the creative aspect, and because they love doing it and they plan on doing it in the future. So if you're producing just because you want to hit some arbitrary goal that you've decided is the point where you can become the salesman of this class, it just doesn't sit right with me. Again, please don't misconstrue this as me talking down to people who sell sample packs, who sell courses, who sell lessons, one-on-one coaching. All that stuff is fine, and it's a good way to make extra money. But if you're just trying to be a producer so you can pivot to that, so that you can work your way up the ladder to where at the end of the day you are selling a course on selling courses on selling courses, I don't rock with that. So I'm curious, have you seen these folks in the wild? Are they in your DMs like they are in mine? Are they hitting you up to try and get you into their little circle? Have you maybe taken a course that you actually loved and got a lot out of? If you have, please let me know in the comments because I want to know about it. So that covers the guru pyramid, but there is a whole second part of this that I'm going to call out using Rick Rubin's book as an example. So Rick Rubin wrote a book, and it's called The Creative Act. If you haven't heard about it, let me explain it to you in Rick's words. I set out to write a book about what to do to make a great work of art. Instead, it revealed itself to be a book on how to be. Now, as a music producer, I was cautiously curious about the contents of this book. Rubin's always been a confounding character to me, and I've found his explanations of his process as a producer to be a bit confusing. We all know he's a big-time music producer with a lot of great records under his belt, but frankly, I don't know much about what he does. I do remember hearing from a friend that he said when he was producing the Red Hot Chili Peppers, he would lay on the couch, text his buddies, and let them jam. And then when they played a riff that he thought was cool, he would make a note of it, record it, and that's how they would start the songs. For someone as prolific and productive as Rubin, it's kind of weird to me that that's pretty much all I know about him. And yes, I was confused about his approach, but this all came to a head when he did his interview with Anderson Cooper. It was the topic du jour on my Facebook feed for an entire week. Frankly, I didn't watch the interview, but after seeing all the discourse that it sparked, I thought, what better way to get to understand this than to just check out the book on my own. I didn't want to go in with too many expectations, but as a fellow music producer, I was really interested to see what the book contained. I was hoping to learn more about his philosophies around recording, what he thinks makes a song great, and maybe hear some anecdotes from the legendary sessions that he's been a part of. Instead, what I got was the next installment of the anthology of self-help books that maybe the world doesn't need. Now, I'm a 29-year-old male in America, so that means I've run through a lot of the 2010 self-help classics. I've done The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Heck, Stillness is the Key, The Atomic Habit, all of those classics, all those great self-help books. And as it stands, I think the self-help container is getting kind of full. A line that I've read in books like this more than once is, take this book as an advice buffet. There's going to be parts that you love, there's going to be parts that you toss and don't use at all. Which to me is kind of a cop-out way of saying, I'm going to write down a bunch of stuff and it might be good, it might not, but because I said this first, you're going to find that to be somehow insightful. Set some low expectations, right? I've heard the stories about Einstein wearing the same outfit every day so he can focus on equations. I've heard about the importance of morning routines and going on walks. But seeing all these anecdotes and basic self-help advice in a book from one of the world's foremost producers, it just kind of seems like he's trying to hit the page count that he needs to get his publishing contract. He even tells of the ancient art of kintsugi, which, if you don't know, when a pot would fall on the ground and the clay would shatter, you would take gold and you would fill in the cracks. So the cracks would become decorations and each piece is beautiful and unique. This is one of the most played out tropes in all of self-help, and honestly, when he started saying it, I couldn't help but just laugh. So basically, if you're expecting anything close to a biography or a book about how to become a producer, you are not getting it in this book. There are probably between 5 and 12 anecdotes from the studio total, and he doesn't talk about what song he was working on when these stories happen. He doesn't tell you the names of any artists he's worked with. And this is a thread that goes through the entire book. Now, let me provide you with a brief overview of the book's form so you can know what you're getting into if you decide to read this book. Chapters 1 through 6 are basically a super long-winded way to describe where ideas come from. He spends dozens and dozens and dozens of pages talking about how the universe is this well of ideas, and if you can tap into it, if you can really become a part of that universe, feed on the inspiration, then you can regurgitate these ideas into great works of art. However, we can't really be in control of this process because what we're doing is tapping into that energy source. The universe is providing the ideas and we're just a cup that it's flowing into. To sum it up in one sentence from the book, we are dealing in a magic realm. Nobody knows how or why it works. If that's something you agree with, then that's great and I'm happy you feel that way. But if you already think that, then I'm not even sure you need the book. Skip reading it, go eat a nice meal, go for a hike in the woods, and come back and write a great album. Now, before you leave a comment saying, well, Rick has sold millions of albums and produced all these big artists, what have you done? Which is a comment I'm fine with you writing. I do want to say that successful people often don't really know why they're successful. This is something that's somewhat touched on in the book, but I've really found it to be true. A lot of times people are in the right place at the right time, or they meet somebody that can just help them as a mentor, or they're supernaturally talented, or they work really, really hard and hone their skills. But they might have a habit or a philosophy or a routine that they give way too much credit to. And in reality, they think that that was instrumental in their success, but it might have had nothing to do with it. So that's chapters 1 through 6, but chapter 7 is where you get your first actionable, real piece of advice. The chapter is called Look for Clues, and that piece of advice cracked me up. I mean, it was a little silly sounding to me, but he said you should go to a bookstore or go grab a book off the shelf, open it to a random page, point at the page, and then whatever you read on there, use that as inspiration for your next idea. Now, that's not bad advice on its face, but he follows it up with maybe the worst thing in the entire book, which is actually the dangerous thing I was talking about earlier. Rick told us that he went to a doctor's appointment because he was in pain, and his doctor said that he needed to get his appendix out because he had appendicitis. After the doctor ordered him to do that, he decided to go to a bookstore for some reason, open a book, point it at the first page that was open to him, and it said, if a doctor tells you to remove part of your body because you don't need it anymore, do not listen. Yeah, this is terrible advice. If you have appendicitis, you can just straight up die if you don't get your appendix out, so please do not listen to this advice. Now, whether or not this is what actually happened, or maybe the first doctor misdiagnosed the problem, whatever it is, Rick said that he's still alive and well today and he still has his appendix. But I'm just gonna say right now, I'm not a doctor. Rick's not a doctor. Don't follow that advice, please. And after I read that, I was very close to just putting the book down and moving on because frankly, we don't need more pseudoscience, weird medical advice in the world, but that's just me. However, I did press on and I did finish the book because what really matters is me giving you guys my take. So chapter 9 is where he really starts to give you actual advice on how you can implement everything from chapters 1 through 6. He suggests listening to, observing, reading great works from the masters. And this is what he wants you to do instead of watching the news or getting wrapped up in social media, all that jazz. Pretty solid advice, nothing too bad there, but do we need 6 chapters of woo-woo nonsense to set that up? I personally don't think so. However, in chapter 10, he returns to his universe spiel with a whole rant about nature. He starts talking about how if you're an artist and you connect to nature, then eventually, when you do that long enough, you'll realize that you are nature. And because of that connection, your spirit will be served, and then a served spirit can create more freely. So basically, if you're having a hard time making stuff, go become one with nature. Now, I don't necessarily think that that's bad advice, but I think the reason that that works is because you're disconnected from your phone, you're disconnected from the computer screen you've been looking at all day. You can't work on the music. So your brain is going to start turning and figuring out what you should do when you get back to what you're working on. Now, chapter 13 in the book is the first time that you're going to hear any advice that's music production related. He talks about how top-liners, which if you don't know, those are people who basically just write melodies and lyrics over beats that someone else made. So those top-liners will take a beat and they'll basically just kind of sing gibberish over it and let that kind of form itself into an idea. So whatever's the first thing that comes to mind without even really thinking, you're gonna sing that over the track. That's true. I write a lot of melodies that way. And sometimes you'll come up with cool lyrics on accident. Now, according to Rick, that is when you are connected with the universe and you are letting that idea spill out of you because your subconscious is more creative than you give it credit for. Now, I'm not saying that that's not necessarily true, but I think a lot of times it's just a coincidence and it's easy to just stumble upon catchy melodies when you turn off your brain and just go. However, his literal next suggestion is to go beat a pillow with your fists for 5 minutes and become enraged at this pillow. And if you do that, and then you go and try and write something, then maybe you'll come up with something cool. I don't know. I didn't try it. You can try that if you want. I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna write the song. The reason that he says to do this is because there is apparently an extreme amount of content in your psyche, but accessing it is beyond your control. And I guess punching the heck out of a pillow is gonna help with that. I don't really know. He continues to say that there have been great artists who had a fever of 103 degrees and that feverish state allowed them to write their best music. Again, I'm not sure what you're supposed to do with this because I can't choose to have a fever. But yeah, he's saying if you can bypass the active part of your brain and get into a dreamlike state, that you're gonna come up with better stuff. Basically, the entire time through this book, he gives you some glimmer of music-related advice or production-related advice, and then immediately pivots into something just ethereal and random and spiritual and weird, which again, if that's what you're into, then that's what you're into, but not for me. And that really was my biggest gripe with the book. If you trim it down to just the stuff that actually covers music production or being a producer or his career as a producer, you're left with basically a pamphlet. And everything else that's in the book, anyone with an Audible subscription and access to a podcast app could probably come up with. Breaking the Sameness is the chapter that had the most recording studio related advice, but most of it just basically came down to change your surroundings, go sit on the couch upside down, change what the song is about, and change the context. Again, all stuff that you can do and it might be nice, but I don't know. I just was hoping for something more tangible here. So to make sure you don't think that I'm a 100% certified hater, I'm gonna tell you some parts of the book that I did like, starting with number 1, the chapter called Make It Up. He says that your work at the beginning is a small work. It's just a small segment, a small chapter of your overall life story. So don't take every project so seriously that it paralyzes you from creating. This one piece of art is not your whole legacy. And this, unfortunately, is one of the few chapters in the book where he starts talking about how instead of just what. And it's also literally the first chapter in the book where he talks about any experience of him working with an artist as a producer. A lot of it is just about moving forward from creative doubt, which is super important. There was also one segment of the book that I found interesting. It's something he called bad at being a monk. You're either a monk or you're not. No one is bad at being a monk, you're just a monk. And in the same way, your creative output doesn't define you as an artist. You're either an artist or you're not. If you're someone who makes art and that's what you do, then you should call yourself an artist, whether you've got 1 million records sold or 0. And that's because being an artist is a practice that you engage in, it's not a status symbol. One other thing that he recommends, which I kind of agree with, is keeping a dream journal. Now, I don't keep a dream journal, but I do keep a notebook and a pen on me so that I can write stuff down. But one thing that did weird me out is that he said when you're doing your dream journal, try to not move your head or your neck and basically just stay in the same exact position, because if you move your head too fast, you will dislodge the dreams. So again, sorry to say I'm not being a hater and pivot into, it is what it is. Chapter 15 was called Setting. I did like that chapter because he talks a lot about how changing your surroundings will impact the way that you create. It did kind of come off as like an undiagnosed ADHD sort of thing, which I have ADHD and I can go be creative in a hotel lobby full of people. I could be creative in the middle of a football game. And the way Rick describes it, it kind of makes me think he has ADHD too, not to play armchair psychiatrist. And the chapter about self-doubt I thought was pretty good too. So if you're an artist who struggles with self-doubt, then that excerpt from the book is definitely worth reading. But again, the rest of the book is kind of dense and weird, and I think you can get that from other places. 2 pieces of actual songwriting advice he gave you was, number 1, don't let a grand vision of what something is supposed to be stop you from creating the version of it that you can create. Basically, don't have illusions of this grandeur and not create something practical because you want to hit this target that no one can expect you to hit. And he also gives the advice to finish a song when you start it if you can. Don't just write the first verse and the chorus and then stop and come back to it later. If you can write the second verse and the bridge while you're working on the song in its first sitting, then you're going to be much more likely to finish it, which I agree with. He actually got that advice from John Lennon, so I'll give him half a point for that. But now that we've got my thoughts on the book out of the way, I want to talk a little bit about my problem with the self-helpification of everything. Self-help books have become a thing where people basically repurpose and repackage the same advice, the same platitudes, but they aim them at different people. And this stuff gets repeated enough times that I don't think you need to have a certain book for whatever hobby or job you're trying to do. The Einstein story, the stories about basketball coaches instilling winning ways, all that stuff, it doesn't really matter what the target audience is. When you tell that story, we all get the lesson. So with all that said, I did promise that I would give you some alternate books that I think you should check out if you're maybe curious about Rick's book but aren't committed to it. But before I even give you any books to check out, I just want to caution you against one thing, and that is letting self-help become some sort of religion or a distraction in your life. But if you want specific advice from me about books that I think you should check out, I'm going to recommend 3 books to you that I think cover 3 of the more broad topics that other producers that I talk to and work with struggle with. Number 1 is going to be 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals by Oliver Burkeman. Now, this is a great book because it's not so much about building good habits or life hacks to help you be more productive. It's more about the psychology of why time management is important, what kind of things you can let go of, and what kind of things you can hone in on. It is a little bit morbid because it is about the fact that you really have about 4,000 weeks on this earth if everything goes according to plan. But I feel like it's an important read, and I'm definitely glad that I read it. Now, number 2 and number 3 are both by Austin Kleon. The first is Steal Like an Artist, and the second is Show Your Work. Steal Like an Artist is a great book about inspiration, about breaking through writer's block, and about just being more productive as an artist. I've read it a few times. It's short, it's about $12, and it really helps kickstart those wheels that sometimes get a little stuck when you start to stagnate. It really sums up the first 6 chapters of Rick's book and a lot of the good stuff from the rest of it in a more practical way, so I appreciate that. And it really does help you get unstuck when it comes to writer's block. The next book in the series is Show Your Work, another book by Austin Kleon that I really enjoyed. It's about taking pride in your work, about showing it to people, about marketing it, and it's really just a great book for anyone who's nervous about putting out their work. He has a 3rd book in that series called Keep Going, but I haven't read it yet, so I don't feel comfortable totally recommending it, but if you like the other 2, then I'm sure this one is great, and I'm definitely going to have to check that out next. If you have read it, let me know in the comments what you thought, because I'm definitely curious about it. But those are the 3 books that I would suggest you check out instead of Rick's book. No offense, Rick, but I think those guys got it covered. And last but certainly not least, if you enjoyed Rick's book, I want to talk a little bit to you. If you clicked this video to see why the heck I suggested not reading this book because you loved it and you felt like it inspired you to create more art, then I genuinely, honestly, am happy for you. Anything that we can do to help get our creative gears turning is good. And if this book helped you do that, then I'm excited for you. But I'm gonna leave you with a word of warning. Take what you got from this book, carry on making great work, and just focus on moving forward being creative. Yes, the routines are nice. Yes, the mindfulness activities are great. But if there's a day where you can't do that stuff, still be creative. If you have an hour time block, spend that hour working on music, being creative. If something that you got from this book helps you get in a good creative place, then that's great. Use that. But don't chase that dragon. Don't always be looking for the next self-help life hack. If you focus on creating more, that is going to have an exponential benefit because every time you practice creating and making stuff, you're just sharpening those tools. But please do not make the self-help stuff from this book become a hang-up where you have to do all these routines. You have to do what it is that you learn from this book or else you can't create. I promise you have it in you to make great art, whether or not you read this book. And if that song is in you, you can let it out. But please don't start chasing that self-help dragon and start building more and more routines that you have to do before you can be creative. You can write a great song without the 30-minute hike. You can write a great song without the 103-degree fever because it is in here. It's in here. If you made it this far, then feel free to like this video and subscribe to the channel and check out this video right here for more practical advice about being a producer.